are ya? Here I am again, East Coast Pete with another Rock is Saved show. We're going to talk about SLADE. Brit rock from Wolverhampton, due north of London, they were the most successful Brit band of the 70s. Based on sales of singles, Noddy Holder and Jim Lee were the songsters. Sold 50 million albums worldwide. Nirvana, Smashing Pumpkins, Ramones, the Sex Pistols, The Clash, Kiss, Motley Crue, Def Leppard, Twisted Sister, and Cheap Trick all claimed SLADE as an influence. Holder's vocals were the most compelling trait. They also international misspelled the names of their songs. I said international, I actually wrote intentional. They intentionally misspelled the names of their songs. Why not? Dave Hill played lead guitar, Don Powell on drums, Jim Lee on bass, and Noddy also played rhythm guitar. SLADE dominated the UK singles chart in the 70s, outperforming even David Bowie and T-Rex. To break into the American market, SLADE relocated to the US, but the gambit didn't succeed, so they moved back to the UK. Their short stay in the US had the opposite effect. Their popularity waned. A lucky break when SLADE replaced Ozzy Osbourne at the 1980 Reading Festival. The chameleon-like SLADE switched from glam to heavy metal, which helped them crack the US market in 1984. The band broke up in 92. They could have done grunge, but they reformed with a different roster. They continue the SLADE ride to this day. Back in '64, Don Powell and Dave Hill were in a Midland group called the Vendors. Noddy Holder was playing guitar with Steve Brett and the Mavericks. The Vendors evolved into the In-Betweens. They found their way onto bills with the Hollies, the Yardbirds, and Georgie fame. The Mavericks and In-Between met on a ferry crossing the channel to gigs in Germany in '65. Holder was asked to join the In-Betweens, but declined, only to change his mind and join when they were back in England. Multi-instrumentalist Jim Lee joined on bass, piano, and violin. They produced singles on Highland Records, Security, Otis Redding, backed by Evil Witch Man. In-Betweens considered itself an R&B band, doing Motown songs and style. They would tour as such for 2 years. In-Between drew the attention of A&R, and they signed a record deal, and the band got busy at Phillips Studios. The band was asked to come up with a better name for themselves. That would be Ambrose SLADE. The debut album fortuitously titled Beginnings, but the album failed. But former Animals bassist, who had managed Jimi Hendrix, became Ambrose SLADE's manager. This is Chaz Chandler. He suggested the band change their image. The band tried a skinhead look to get publicity. Noddy was already menacing enough, and the skinhead idea did not help. They shortened the name to SLADE. Their appearance on top of the Pops didn't help either. What to do? Chandler moved SLADE to Polydor, a new single, Know Who You Are, perhaps to re-establish themselves as rockers, and the album Play It Loud was still not enough to get them noticed by UK record buyers. The band still had a good reputation as a live act, and they released a Little Richard cover, Get Down and Get With It, which went to number 16 in the UK. Finally. So, what's next? Glam, that's what. The long hair was back and the clothing got seriously bizarre. Chandler told them, no more covers as singles, write your own. Slade came up with 'Cause I Love You, and Chandler loved it and promised it would be a hit, and the songwriting partnership of Holder and Lee began. The misspelling of their song titles became a thing, to the horror of UK school teachers. Second single, Look What You Done, and what is spelled W-O-T, and done is spelled D-U-N. Went to number 4 in the UK, and the album Slade Alive peaked at number 2. Today, this album is considered one of the best live albums ever made. The next single, Take Me Back Home, went to number 1 in the UK. Mama, We're All Crazy Now also went to number 1. In 1972, Slade, was a number 1 album in Britain and Australia, charted in America to number 69. In 73, Come On, Feel the Noise went straight to number 1, but not in the US, where it went to number 98. And the single Merry Christmas, Everybody was released in the middle of a summer heat wave. This was their last UK number 1. Ever chameleon-esque, Slade tried different music styles, piano-led ballads. Slade released a film titled Slade in Flame. Excuse me. Well, that didn't work. Excuse me. Crunch. Ever chameleon-esque, Slade tried different music styles, piano-led ballads. Slade released a film titled Slade in Flame. The story was about a fictional band called Flame with true references to their own history. Far, Far Away, one of the soundtrack singles, went to number 2 in the UK and number 1 in Norway. And Noddy says it's his favorite Slade song. The critics liked the movie, but fans thought it was bleak. Nothing like their good time Slade. At this time, Slade thought that the UK had gone stale and made what they thought was a permanent move to the United States. In '76, they toured the US with Aerosmith, ZZ Top, and Black Sabbath. Their next album was heavily influenced by and aimed at the American record-buying public. Nobody's Fool was a Slade does soul, country, and funk kind of deal. Another big mistake. UK fans said Slade had sold out. US fans took no notice of the album. Their live shows were, like back home, well attended, but the radio wouldn't play the singles. What to do, what to do. Ask me when we get back to Britain, where guess what? Punk rock was everywhere. Slade was out of style once again. Chandler did not renew the Polydor contract, instead signing with his own Barn Records. The BBC banned their first Barn signal, Gypsy Roadhog, for a perceived drug reference. Whatever happened to Slade went over well with critics, and punk rockers even liked it. Not enough to buy it. Perish that thought. Slade played smaller venues, universities, and clubs. Then came the Reading Fest with 65,000 in the audience. Slade performed well, won back their fans, and became the darlings of the press and radio. Alive at Reading went to number 44, the first chart success in 4 years. A comp album, Slade Smashes, went to number 21. A single, We'll Bring the House Down, was aimed at heavy metal fans. It worked. It went to number 10, the first top 10 in 6 years. Slade was now a headbanging band. The albums were guitar-driven and heavy. They were now signed with RCA. 2 new singles, My Oh My and Run, Run Away, not only were spelled correctly, they charted to number 2. Run, Run Away was Celtic. Sorry. Run, Run Away was Celtic, flavored, featuring Lee's fiddle. American glam metal band Quiet Riot covered Slade's common Feel the Noise. It went to number 5 in the U.S. This prompted Run, Run Away to chart in the U.S. too, to number 20. Perhaps due to the MTV video, My Oh My was given a video, and it also did well. Keep Your Hands Off My Power Supply went to number 3 in the U.S. Rogues Gallery, heavily dependent of Lee playing synthesizer, could have told you it failed. Slade once again faded, US and UK, but it went to number 5 in Norway. RCA gave permission for Slade to return to their own cheapskate record label. Slade ditched the synthesizer and opted for a Beastie Boys type of sound. Did it work? No, didn't work. However, Merry Christmas, Everybody became the most re-released single in anyone's reckoning. And then in 1992, Holder left. Lee retired. Powell became a bartender, but would reform Slade with Hill. Slade 2. Steve Lawley was the new vocalist. No one cared. People did care about Holder, though. He was awarded member of the Most Excellent of the Brit Empire Award. An attempt to rewrite the 4 original members for a farewell tour kind of fizzled. In 2006, Powell published a biography, Look What I Done With My Life, in Slade, released in 2013. And whoever's calling me, I'm not going to pick it up, so that's all there is to it. Dave Hill did his own autobiography, as did Noddy Holder. And John Barry, vocals, bass, violin, and Russell Keefe, keyboards and vocals, have been full members of Slade with Hill and Powell. But do you care? Don't worry, Merry Christmas, Everybody will almost certainly be reissued 100 more times. Don't you just love the holidays? Thanks for being with me on Rock is Saved. I'll be back shortly. Find out who the fuck is calling.